This podcast is proudly sponsored by Surf Prep Sanding. They're a family-owned and operated company specializing in sanders, abrasives, and dust extractors. I've been using Surf Prep now for years and have come to know the amazing people behind their brand. I love their 6-inch electric random orbital sander and the 3x4 sander the best. The 3x4 is awesome for contour sanding and has by far helped me level up my sanding to get a great finish for all my projects. Use code MAKERLOUNGE, all one word, at checkout from surfprepsanding.com for 10% off your order. Now let's get to the show. Thank you to Surf Prep and our patrons for sponsoring this episode. As always, I'll give a shout out to our top tier patrons at the end of the episode. We have a couple of new patrons this week, Grant with @DadCrafted and Ty with @ShockTheFox. If you want to be part of our Maker Lounge podcast community, head over to patreon.com/MakerLoungePodcast. Welcome to the Lounge. I'm Matt with Bolton Woodworking and your host of the Maker Lounge podcast, where every Friday we have a rotating group of makers hanging out and talking shop with each other. He needs no introduction, but here we go. Today's guest is usually the host of his own well-established podcast, and yet he agreed to be on this Mere Mortals podcast. His main YouTube channel is geared for the average woodworker like me, which is why it's grown to almost 2 million subscribers. The man behind Woodworking for Mere Mortals, the WTS podcast, and the Weekend Woodworker is here in the lounge, Mr. Steve Ramsey.
Wow, thank you for that. Thank you for that introduction. That is fantastic, man. You've got it going on. You've got the music going. You're like at a control panel there. You got everything going. I do my podcast. I'm lucky if I could just speak on my podcast. You know.
Oh, there's lots of. We talked a little bit the pre-show. Lots of ums and ahs that have to be edited out.
I'll make sure I make extra ums and ahs. I don't know if I told you this when we were at Workbench Con, but I had a guest on my show. And I guess he must heavily edit his videos, and I don't want to say who he was. He's not in the woodworking or maker space. He's in the art space. And when I was talking to him on my show, after every sentence, he would go, he would take this horrible bit. It was like it was like this real, he was like filled with spit or something. And it was like, oh my God, it took me hours to edit that audio.
Wow. Somebody recently told me about Descript. We were talking about Descript. Actually, it was Adam of All Trades, just had him on the podcast. And he was saying something about Descript and how it has an and all filter in there.
I don't know what Descript is.
So apparently you can take we record in Riverside, and you can download just like you download for Premiere, you can download into Descript or like some sort of thing, and it will edit the ums and ahs out, and it's like an editing thing. Well, I could sure use that.
Yeah. I use like Adobe Audition and just kind of go through it. I actually enjoy editing audio a lot. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. It's a whole different way of looking at editing than video editing.
Yeah, you watch. When you do it, are you watching it or are you more listening?
When I'm editing video?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at that audio track, those waveforms, and I can know exactly when to cut that, when there's sound stops. And yeah, it's very important, I think.
Yeah. I have had a few guests. There was a lot of delays that had to be edited out, because it doesn't make for great podcast listening.
Yeah, it's like me when I'm trying to shoot a story on Instagram or something. Like the first second is me just going, oh, okay, here we are.
How many takes do you do when you do Instagram stories?
Well, I'm trying to not do. I used to be, I would do more and more takes because I think, oh, it doesn't look right. It doesn't nobody's going to be looking at this stuff. What do I care? And so I just I don't do a whole lot of Instagram. I'm the worst Instagrammer ever. I mean,
you're crushing it on YouTube though. So.
Well, yeah, I always tell myself I'm going to do more Instagram. I'm like, I got to do that. I got to get a schedule and all this stuff. And then I look and like the last post was like a month ago or something. I'm like,
yeah.
It's too much. It's exhausting.
Yeah. I've recently switched from doing more Instagram stuff over to YouTube, just because I think that's where the audience is going.
I kind of got that impression at Workbench Con. It's like so many people are just like, we're there trying to transition into YouTube. It's like all roads eventually lead to YouTube.
Yeah, and I feel like they do it right with their analytics and stuff. They know how to cater to the audience rather than Instagram just seems like they put things out willy-nilly.
Yeah. I don't.
Very frustrating platform.
I don't fully understand Instagram. I feel like I've been on there since the beginning, but I've never really been part of it very well. I'm always like, people are telling me things that I just now realize that have been a part of that for years. Like, it was like, I don't like all of these different posts coming into my feed. And somebody said, well, you know, at the top, there's this little Instagram logo. If you click it, you can just have the people that you're following. And I was like, this is mind blowing. How did I not know this? It's probably been there for 10 years and I never knew that.
Yeah, one of those soft rollouts that they put out there for everybody and didn't tell anybody about.
We don't really want you watching just your followers.
Yeah. We want to show you people digging wells in, India and stuff.
Yeah, really.
I don't know. Sometimes there's some interesting things. I guess I've been liking a lot of dad joke stuff lately.
Oh, yeah.
And so they've been serving a lot of dad joke stuff up to me.
Did you ever watch Scott Prop and Roll? A real funny guy. He does dad jokes. He makes props, or he's a prop master for Hollywood movies and TV shows. And so he describes all of the different types of props. Real interesting stuff on how they, break away glass and all this stuff. But he always ends with a dad joke. And I think a lot of people watch him just for the dad jokes. They're really funny.
He saves it for the end.
Yeah, usually. And it's like a 1-2 punch. He'll make the dad joke and then he follows it right up with he is like the master of the dad joke.
I love a good dad joke. I tried to build that into my content and it seemed like it, didn't go so well. So I reserved that for the podcast stuff. But they're like inappropriate dad jokes.
Yeah, those are the best ones.
So, yeah, as I said in the intro, you've got a lot of things going on. You got a lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't, Everybody is always like, you should really focus on one thing. But my brain always goes in a lot of different directions. And a lot of times I get interested in one thing. And that becomes like, I just get obsessed with it. And then I think, well, should I be doing this? Or should I really be focusing on what I should be doing, making videos and these sorts of things? But I do get easily distracted.
Yeah. Do you think about the projects and then you do the content around those projects, or are you thinking about the content first
for YouTube videos?
Yeah.
I think about the projects. I think about what is going to be a good project for the people who watch my show. It used to be I would kind of make whatever I wanted to, but as the years went by, I became more and more conscious about who my audience is, and who I really am trying to appeal to is kind of the total beginner woodworker. And so I like to consider myself kind of a gateway drug into woodworking. and I really like that role. I really enjoy teaching people who don't know anything about woodworking. People who have never touched a hammer in their life, and they're just don't know where to begin. And I love that I can discover things about myself by doing that, because a lot of woodworking procedures and techniques that I've done for 40 years become so second nature that it's easy to gloss over that. And I have to always reel myself back and think, maybe not everybody knows how to change a table saw. Maybe they're not even sure which way those teeth are supposed to go. I mean, these are important things that I think a total beginner needs to know. And I really enjoy doing that. And it really makes me take time to think about those things.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I think a lot of people, they'll do content and they want to kind of get to the punchline. Yeah. And they forget their audience, and me included. It's like, well, nobody needs to see me changing out a blade, because I feel like if they're gonna do this type of build, they should know how to change a blade. But your audience is definitely a different demographic than.
Yeah, I think there's all different types of woodworking videos. There's the people who make fantastic high-end projects, and people like to watch them, just to watch somebody else doing it. And woodworkers like to watch it to pick up maybe new tips or just different ways of making things. And then there's more educational videos, which I've always kind of considered myself in that educational space, although not all of my videos are like that. But I try to really lean in on that and really know not just educational, but educational for a certain demographic of people. You know, I know people will advance out of my videos usually at some point. They're like, I got to get something, try something new, you know.
They advance past the mere mortal phase. And
yeah, but they come back. I hear from people all the time. They're like, oh man, I was watching you, 12 years ago or 15 years ago, and here I am still watching. That's really cool to hear.
Yeah. How does that make you feel?
It's fantastic. I mean, I absolutely, it's the best part of my job is when I hear from people that say, and I don't mean this in any kind of egotistical way, but when people tell me that I had an effect of changing their life in some way. Mm-hmm. And because I never would have thought about that when I first got into YouTube. I had no grandiose plans of changing lives or leaving an impact of any way. But when I hear people say, I never knew how to do any woodworking. I just happened across one of your videos. I got interested in it. Next thing I know, I'm buying tools, and now I've started my own business. I mean, all this stuff. And it's just like, to me, it's so humbling to have that reaction. And it took me a long time to realize that that's sort of my role, and to take that seriously and to understand that there's a responsibility that goes along with that.
Well, I think you're one of the least egotistical woodworkers out there, if I could just say that. I think Drew Witt, he made a video, and I saw you had commented on it, so you know which one I'm talking about. He was a guest on this podcast, great guy. But, he pointed out the fact that you went there, you didn't, at least the perception is, you didn't, expect anything. You went there to meet people, and you and I struck up a conversation and talked. I talked to you at length about podcasting.
Oh, it was a great conversation. Yeah,
it was so good. Learned a lot from you, and I was like, oh man, if this guy can just do the podcast, it'd be incredible.
Yeah, I have kind of a policy of just to say yes to almost everything. I think that we too often, so many people have gotten into this knee-jerk reaction of just, their first response is going to be no to something, because we tell ourselves that we're too busy or we're too important or we have too many things that we're doing. But I kind of think that when you're in a position of being in the media, sort of the new media and internet, it's really part of your job is to be accessible. I think that's what separates YouTube from other forms of media.
Yeah, I think I had somebody reach out to me. They just started following the podcast and reached out to me, and then they said, "Hey, we've also got a podcast. Would you like to be on the podcast?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, absolutely." I mean, I think that cross-pollination is always good, but then also, if I'm trying to get guests on the show and I'm saying no, what does that? What message does that send out?
Yeah. No, I think it's important to, and out of all of the people I invite on my show, I get a pretty good return of people, and sometimes it's really, it kind of boggles my mind when people say yes, because I just throw out invitations to like real long shots. I never know what's going to happen, but once in a while somebody. And then it's really funny when somebody says, "Oh yeah, I'd love to be on your show. I love listening to that podcast." I'm like, "Wow, that's really cool. I didn't really know that." Yeah,
it's a great feeling to and building up a Patreon community and stuff. You and I chatted a little bit about that, and just how that kind of propels you and drives your passion a little bit, more. Yeah, because there are people who are depending on those episodes. Yeah. Week in, week out.
Yeah, it's true. I absolutely love podcasting. It's just it's the most exciting thing I've done really since I started YouTube. I mean, it has that same feeling to me. This is my third year of doing it, the second year of the WTS show. And it's just always has that feeling of like, man, this is so new. This is so much fun. This is the way I felt in 2008 making videos.
Yeah. And it's great because on on Instagram post, you don't really get to know the maker too well. You get to know that whatever they're trying to cater to the algorithm. And then like on YouTube, it's got to be refined. It's got to hit, check all the boxes, in most cases. And there are a few creators who really show their personality. I think, Hibbs is one who shows his personality really well. Scott Walsh is another guy that I really enjoy watching. But you still don't get to know them fully as a maker, which is kind of why I started this podcast, because we can have conversations like this, and you can, selfishly, I can ask the questions I want to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's the beauty of podcasts, is you have time to flesh these things out, and you get a much more unfiltered view of somebody than, people who are making their own videos. Obviously, we're going to put we're going to shine our light on ourselves and make ourselves look as good as we can and edit out as many things. And we're all putting on a show. Nobody, no matter how long you've been making videos, and everybody always tells you, just be yourself in a video, and nobody really is.
Right.
On a video, it's still performative to a certain extent.
Yeah, the ones where they're acting themselves, those are the ones that are like, delete that.
Yeah. Well, if you're totally acting yourself, for the most part, it's kind of a boring video. You have to have a little bit. You have to ramp it up just a little bit more. I think that's probably one of the biggest mistakes people make on YouTube, is not really having that forward face to themselves, to being too casual.
Yeah, that's true. One thing I enjoy watching in your videos is you keep some of that stuff in that people would normally edit out. Like, the other day I was watching one of yours, and you were wheeling your table saw out, and you put the unnecessary walnut wedge that you've got for your table saw
under the foot.
And that makes it relatable, because most people who are watching your channel are doing that exact same thing. They've got a small shed maybe, and they're wheeling their tools out, and it's not a bright and shiny table saw, and all of your stuff is very relatable to your demographic. I'm conscious of that, but I'm also just a cheapskate, and I'm not one of these guys. I'm not a tool guy. I just don't go and buy tools, and I don't, there's some guys who know like the actual model numbers of tools, and that to me just blows my mind. They're like, "Hey, did you know about the new Davoll 2932 planer?" And I'm like, "Wow, how do you know the models?" How the last table saw, my current table saw was given to me in like 2010 or 11. A bunch of people got together, and actually they're on this plaque right behind me, the names of all the people who donated for that cause, to get rid of my old Craftsman table saw. But I just don't buy tools. I keep them around forever until they just completely stop working, and then I'm like, oh God, I guess I got to buy a new one. Well, 2010, that's a pretty good testament to that table saw. They ought to be sending you a check at this point.
Well, it's a Porter cable table saw. They don't even make those.
They're not even around anymore.
No. Yeah, but I like it. I got a table saw from SawStop. They sent me one, the little compact one they were sending out everybody, and wanted to know if they could put an ad in my newsletter, and I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm like, just know that I have a table saw. I'm not switching, but if you want to do that, that's fine.
Yeah.
They're like, okay.
You don't do any like off-site kind of stuff, right? Like for family, I guess maybe, but other than that.
Not even really that. Everything I do is in my shop, and it used to be I would make stuff that we needed in the house for the most part, but after years and years of doing that, my wife's like, okay, we have enough of this crap. Stop.
Yeah. I think we need another trestle table.
Yeah. We have 14 coffee tables. No more, please. It's not that bad, but I do make projects now that are intentionally made for my audience, because I think it's something that they would like to build. It's accessible for them to build, and I can show all the techniques of it. And then I'm left with this project, which I usually just have to give away, you know, to a friend or somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine Christmas time, it's you're gearing up and doing all the stuff, or are you at the point now where you're like, you know, just buy something?
That's the bad part, is that, you know, it used to be Christmas was, I'm making all the Christmas projects and everything. And now I just don't make gifts for anybody, really. Occasionally I will. And I have some older projects around, little gift boxes that I've made, wooden boxes and things. And sometimes I'll pull one of those out for a special friend or somebody who does something really special and give that to them. But yeah, I just don't do much woodworking unless it's really focused on a video.
Was that the focus of the channel, like from the get-go, is new woodworkers, or was it you just put some videos out there initially just
so this all, I have no idea how any of this all came about. You know, it's just, I always like to think of life as a river, and it just kind of flows. And if you just kind of go with it, you never know where you're going to end up. And when I posted my first video, and so this was in 2008, and I'd already been doing woodworking. Well, my whole life I've done woodworking, but we had moved into this house in 2001, and I set up my shop, and I've been doing woodworking for all these years here. And then in 2008, when YouTube was still fairly new, I thought, you know, I want to make this chessboard, and I think I just want to document it just kind of for myself so I can remember all the steps and how I did it, and I thought it would be fun. So I shot that video and posted it on YouTube in a sort of like a 7-part series. The videos could only be 10 minutes long back then, so I had to chop it all up. It was so boring. But this was part of family videos. I had a lot of roller coaster videos because my son and I were really into roller coasters at the time. He was 10 years old. We were riding every coaster up and down the state of California and in other states. And so a lot of those, and just a whole mishmash of stuff, which was not uncommon for 2008 YouTube to do. There were a number of YouTubers on the platform who were making, you know, full productions of videos and everything, but most people were just having fun with the platform. So I posted that video, and the only other person who was posting woodworking videos was Mark Spagnolo, and he came in, you know, a year before I did. And so after I posted that, I never expected really anybody to watch it. Why would somebody watch this thing? And then people started watching it, and it was just mind-boggling. And I remember getting to like 1,000 subscribers, which it took a while. In that first, I guess, year I probably did. And I was like, I cannot believe the 1,000 people want to subscribe to me posting woodworking videos and roller coaster videos and all this crap on here. But then I was like really naive, and then I started looking, and I'm like, oh, wait a second. Really what they're watching is the woodworking videos. So that's when I started to switch it up. And I'm like, I should probably just do woodworking videos. And one of the very early comments that I would get on my videos, and it was funny because I didn't know that my tools were really kind of low end and crappy. I was perfectly happy with them. But some of the comments I was starting to get real early on was people were like, oh man, this is so cool because this is just the same kind of tools I have. This is just me working in a garage. And then the more and more of those I got, I remember thinking, this is sort of maybe what I should be doing, because the only people making woodworking content, at least online, was Mark, who was doing the real nice woodworking. And then before him, it was all on TV, and there was Norm Abram and Roy Underhill, but anybody working with power tools would think of Norm Abram, who had this massive shop, and everything was like, you know, laser guided. I'm sure he would be using robots today if he was still doing it. But it was also amazing to watch him. And then that was when I thought, this was after a couple of years of making YouTube videos, I thought, maybe I should make a name for what I'm doing here. Mm-hmm. And that's when I came up with the Woodworking for Mere Mortals. And I just thought, this will be the alternate. This will be the alternative to this kind of high-end woodworking that requires you to have, a mortising machine and all of this high-end stuff, that I can just use the tools I already have and just show people how these things are done. And so that was kind of the impetus. The first couple of years, the channel didn't have a name. It was just my username, which was misspelled too. I misspelled my own name. It was, I set up my YouTube account, like, I barely remember because it was so fast. I'm like, I'll set up a YouTube account. What's your username? And I wanted to have Steve in Marin. Marin is, I live in Marin County here in California. And for some reason, I missed the second E in my name. And so it was just Stev in Marin. And I click, okay, yes, I have a channel now. And then everybody was permanent. Everybody were calling me like Stev or Steven or how is this name? And I was like, this is so... And that haunted me for years until just like last year when they changed that. And now you have like an @ sign on your channel name. So Steven Marin is completely gone now. Finally, it only took 15 years.
Wow, that's amazing. I guess I never picked up on that because you always just see the channel name typically. But wow. How frustrating. You're like, well, and then once you get past 1,000 subscribers, you're like, well, there's no way I'm starting another channel just to fix my name.
Yeah. Well, I did. And like 2011 or 12, I thought I'll start a second channel where I can post my behind the scenes. Everybody wants to start a second channel at some point.
Well, that was before the plus, right?
I've changed that channel for a lot. It was originally Mere Minutes. And I thought, well, these will just be little quick things that I couldn't get into the regular videos. And I would have little talks after my regular project video. This was back when I was posting a weekly project video. And then I would post on Mere Minutes. But it was just so much work, even just those, to do that. And so then eventually I stopped doing that. And then eventually I started just using that second channel as a dumping ground for, and then like last year, I'm like, everybody's got a plus these days. I'm just going to rename it to Steve Ramsey Plus. And so I put like my movie reviews on there and stuff.
Yeah. I don't remember if that's the channel that I saw. You did like a horror spoof or something with, it was like a DIY killer or something.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's on my main channel, actually.
That's on your main channel.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love doing is the Halloween videos. Every year I do a Halloween video. I've been doing that since the very first year on YouTube.
Yeah.
And last year was the DIY killer. And,
I was watching it and my wife walked in and she goes, "What are you watching?" You were talking about your ongoing sponsorship with Swiffer so you can clean up blood or something.
Yeah, right. And Squarespace.
And Squarespace. That was great. Perfect addition. ISO tunes for the screams of agony.
All right. Yeah, you got to have all these things. Those are like my worst performing videos. When I do the Halloween videos, it's like the people who watch them love them. Everybody else is like, I ain't watching this. No, I'm out.
Yeah. You come on with an alter ego and do a. Is that for all of them? Because I had just seen the one. I hadn't.
I have a lot of different ones. Usually they're based around a project. This last one I didn't have it based around a project because I didn't really have a lot of time to think it through. But yeah, they usually have some sort of a project and a twist to them.
Yeah, and you had the Jeffrey Dahmer vibe going on.
Yeah, totally. Everybody said, "You're doing Jeffrey Dahmer, aren't you?" I'm like, all you got to do is put on a pair of glasses and slick your hair back, and you got Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah, it was great. Because my wife she's usually like she'll go to bed, and I usually consume a lot of content after she goes to bed, and so I'll just be watching YouTube on the TV. And she was walking toward the bedroom, and normally it's whatever channel I'm usually studying for the podcast, and she walks by and she just stops, and I'm just watching her reaction. She's just looking at it like, is this a woodworking channel?
No, not really. I don't know what it is. What did I get myself into?
I think it's great. Yeah. I love it.
I like being able to, I feel like I'm at that stage kind of in my YouTube career where I don't care too much about like feeding the algorithm. It's kind of, I feel like I've kind of come full circle to that early Steve when I was just kind of posting fun, cool things. And I'm kind of like that now. And I have no schedule. I'll post when I want and whatever I want, just kind of have fun with it.
Yeah. I bet that's freeing for you to have that. Because I think, I'm in a space right now where my creativity is I'm starting to feel the pressure of doing something that is going to hit. And it's a lot of, it starts to kill my creativity. It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it will. Because your boss is now a machine. You're working for a machine.
Right.
Just, rather than making videos for people, you're just trying to appeal to whatever, how can I title this video? How can I make the perfect thumbnail? And it's just exhausting. It just wears you down.
So how do you think that's the success of your longevity on YouTube, is just making content for people?
Yeah, I think so. And trying to stay relevant. It's not like I don't play the YouTube game. I certainly do, but I don't obsess over it the way I used to. I don't really get deep into analytics or anything like that anymore. And I'm not trying to figure out, they always say, you should, before you even shoot a video or even make a project, you should figure out the title of the video. How clever are you, And I don't feel like I'm clever enough with those titles. Other than I know if you put dollar signs in there of some sort, you can usually get more views.
Dollar signs and lots of arrows on the thumbnail.
Oh, God, I know. But I don't know. It's just, it just becomes much more of a chore that way. Right. And I think, and I'm sure you noticed a lot of this at Workbench Con too, is that people were mostly, there wasn't a lot of talk about woodworking there, really. And of course, this is a social media conference, so you would expect that. But I do have a feeling there's a lot of people who get into YouTube more out of wanting to become a YouTuber and make a lot of money and figure out. And the thing they're doing isn't really as important as the fact that they are working out how to appeal to that algorithm.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I think back to a few years ago when I was doing projects, and they were mostly commission builds. And so I would video them, and then I would put the build out there. I would do a voiceover, which is much your style. Just putting, doing the actual work, and then voicing it over how you did the project. And I wasn't really focused on YouTube at the time, and I was really enjoying the project. But recently I've started focusing more on the video and less on the project, and started doing less woodworking, which is actually the thing that I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword.
There's a balance that I think we can all strike at some point. And I think it just kind of takes time and experience in figuring out exactly what you enjoy about each part of it. Because I love making videos and I love making woodworking projects. And I think I love them equally. I really do. So I got to just kind of reel myself in that I'm not so focused on one that I forget the other. And there is a point where I can pick the right projects that appeal to me and I know are going to appeal to my audience, and spend a little bit of time playing the YouTube game, but not drive myself crazy there. And it's just finding that balance. I think that's important.
Yeah. And so when you're doing those projects, are you thinking about how you're going to splice the content together at the end, or you're just videoing the project and then you think about the voiceover and stuff later? So
a lot of this has changed recently because I'm trying to, this is one of the YouTube game things I am trying to play is making longer videos, because now YouTube really wants these 30-minute videos, or at least somewhere close to there.
Yeah.
And I was always very comfortable making an 8-minute video. It was kind of my sweet spot for years. And when I first started YouTube, really it was like 2 to 3 minutes was the best. Anything over that was like YouTube death. Nobody's going to watch that video. And then I got really good at these 8-minute videos, and for years, and I had such a system worked out where I could make the project and shoot the video and edit all at the same time. And the nice thing about making woodworking projects is, and the videos that go with them, is it's all linear. So you can pretty much shoot in order. So as I'm shooting, I might glue something up. I have a time to take a break. I'll take the card out of my camera and I'll just start editing. And with that style that I was doing, I never did voiceovers until just like this last year. I had always just talked directly to the camera off the cuff, or scripted stuff for like intros that I would read on a teleprompter. And I still do that. If I have like a real long conversational video, I use the teleprompter for that. But now that I'm doing these longer videos, it's like a whole new challenge to me, because I have to make sure I have enough, I've filmed enough stuff that it's there, and then go back and try to talk over what I'm doing and make that into a story, which I'm finding much more of a challenge. I'm finding it really difficult to do those voiceovers. I've done, a handful of them now, and I'm sort of starting to get a system down of how I think I can tell a story this way, because the problem isn't making the long video and just talking. It's about not talking to the point where it sounds like I'm just padding it out to fill up this video. So I'm trying to bring in conversational things into that video that I think are important or interesting, that I can spend a few minutes just talking about various topics in that video. And so I'm getting there with that. And, there's some people who are just really good at that, like our man at
Blacktail Studio.
God, why was I blagging on Blacktail Studio? It's like only the biggest channel on YouTube right now. But yeah, oh man, he's like the king of the voiceover. Man, he just has that voice. And I was talking to him about that, and he's like, no, I just sit there and just talk about what I'm doing. And I'm like, wow, that's impressive, because I have to avoid just describing what you're seeing on the video.
Right.
And so I'm trying to show things that are happening in the video and sort of talking about something else, or maybe kind of my philosophy behind something. I'm really big into kind of philosophy of woodworking and why we do certain things. Yeah.
Well, yeah, like even how you use a push stick, or how you change a dado stack, or what a dado stack is used for. You can go on for 2-3 minutes on something like that, where most people would kind of gloss over that. And then you'll see in their comments, questions from new woodworkers on what is that thing that you were using to, or, what were those saw blades?
Yeah.
Like, well, that's a dado stack, dummy. They don't know.
Well, these are the type of comments that really helped inspire me to create my courses, is because for the most part, you can't do a step-by-step instructional video on YouTube. I mean, it's just really, you're not going to get any. But if I have a course where people have paid to actually learn step-by-step how to make a table, I can spend that time, and I can put in, markers. Here's where you need to go if you want to learn this part, speed it up or come back to it. And I can take the time. I even have a thing in my videos is like real-time action shots or something. I forget what I call it, but just showing like certain shots of running a board through a table saw in real time, because I think that's important, because we don't usually see that in videos. Usually videos are sped up so fast. But I think
slow down.
You
get both.
Exactly. I think it's important.
Sexy slow-mo.
It's important that people know kind of what they're getting themselves into. Like, oh, that took me that actually takes longer than I would have expected to cut a board or something, And so those are the kind of things that you just really can't do on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah. Most people, I get a lot of commission requests. Can you build this? And I usually take a picture of something they found on the internet or something like that. Can you build this? Yes, I can, but it's going to be a lot more than you think it is because they're used to watching Chip and Joanna, or getting familiar with all of that thing, where they're splicing it together in 30 minutes. Well, they built an entire kitchen in 30 minutes. Well, can't you just build a table?
Yeah, it's detrimental a lot of time. I really people working on commission, man, it's a hard game. How are you doing on commissions? You still do a commission work?
I've started rejecting jobs or passing jobs on to people because the podcast just takes up so much time. Yeah. Between the time recording and then the time editing. And I'm really trying to, because I'm a new podcast, I'm trying to put things together, reels and maybe a short segment from the full podcast and put that on YouTube. And so I've spent a lot of time doing that. So I've cut back on the commission stuff quite a bit.
And there's a fair amount of research going into podcasts too. I think people don't realize when you have somebody on, you usually kind of want to look them up a little bit so you know a little bit more about their background and that sort of thing. And there's
you've got a woodworking channel?
Yeah, I know. Somebody's all here
folks
shows.
Like you, it's a lot easier. I could Google Steve Ramsey, I could Google Jimmy DiResta, I could Izzy Swan. It's the other creators that don't have a lot of information out there that are harder. I mean, if I wanted to know your age, I could Google that,
I'll be 57 here in just a couple months.
Yeah. Didn't you did a thing a while back. You said people say you're getting younger.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I actually started taking care of myself. It's not that I'm getting younger. It's like I used to look much older than I should have. Yeah. And it's just a matter of taking better care of yourself. Yeah.
You stay pretty active. I mean, you're for those of you not watching on YouTube, Steve is standing for the podcast, as he does with all of his podcasts.
Yeah, I never sit. I don't even have a chair at my desk for editing, for everything. I built a desk, and then I have one of these I don't know what you call it, like a thing that goes on top that raises up and down. So
like a Veridesk or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And it's just, I thought, well, that'll be good. I can put it up and I can stand, and then I can put it down, and it never goes down. It's just always in the up position because now I can't really sit. If I sit, it feels awkward to me. I feel like I need to kind of move around a little bit. And so now I rarely sit.
And that's why you're slender, and I'm starting to look like a Hershey's Kiss.
No, it comes down to food. It's just all food.
Yeah. Well, you're also in sunny California. I used to live in Fullerton, California, Orange County, and now I live in Houston, where it's so hot, 10 months out of the year that you just don't go outside.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, I was probably a lot more active in California than I am out here.
Yeah.
And, especially the shop. The shop is just sweltering half the time.
Yeah, and that's, it's one of the things I'm really grateful for living here in Northern California is that I can work in my shop year round in my garage, even with the garage door open. In fact, the only way I work is with the garage door open. I like the air, the light, and everything that comes in there. And I don't think I could work in a place where it has snow. And I see these guys posting their pictures of their shops in the snow. I think, man, I don't know how you do that.
Going like, okay, I'm doing my lumber run for the season.
Yeah.
Got to gear up. Yeah, that it's like that in Houston too. Especially if I have a lot of commission builds coming up to a summer, I'll stop taking commission builds.
Yeah.
Just it's plus you want to enjoy the weather out there.
Matt, what's your take on commission woodworking in general these days? Is it a good gig to get into, or is it just something that is just a real struggle?
I would say for me and the few people that I talk to that do commission builds, it's more to support our hobby.
Oh, okay.
That's not something, because my full-time job is in oil and gas. And so I do this as a supplemental thing, so that way I don't draw from the main account. If I want a tool, I'll do enough commission jobs to pay for that tool.
Right.
And so that's been kind of my strategy. Now that I have enough tools, I've stopped taking those commission builds. But I think if you're not doing big projects like built-ins, furniture, things like that, it's just not going to be worth it. There are people who crush it making cutting boards.
Yeah, man.
That is a lot of work. And just the repetitive nature of that, it just sounds miserable.
It does to me too. I feel like everything I make is kind of the first one, of something in the only time.
Yeah. Well, that's so freeing. Yeah, I intentionally actually stopped doing commission builds back in 2017. I stopped for 2 years, the business altogether, because my wife and I were kind of like ships in the night. I'd be going out to the garage, or on the weekends I'd be out there, and she's taking care of our small kids at the time. And so I stopped doing the commission builds and, just really focused on the family and stuff. But eventually I started missing it and, started doing it again. But when I came back, I made the decision to not do what I was doing before, which was like my last big job was a full kitchen remodel.
Wow.
By myself.
How long does that take? How long does something like that take a single person?
About 3 months.
And how much you pay? How much you charge for something like that?
So that job initially was supposed to. So is a complicated story to that one, but it was initially supposed to be about $30,000 to $35,000.
Okay, yeah.
And it was going to be probably $8,000 or $9,000 in materials. And so I thought, well, the margin's there, and I told them that I can't be on a time schedule because I'm just doing this on the weekends, and they had flooded, which is why I did the remodel. So out in Houston, we have a lot of flooding.
Were they still living in the house?
They were living in the house.
Oh my God.
But they had an RV, and so they were like doing all their cooking and stuff in the RV. And this was actually their second time, maybe third time that they had flooded. They were in a flood area. And so the previous time I was delivering a farmhouse table to them after their previous flood. And I was like, well, these cabinets are really shoddy.
Previous floods. I think it's time to move out of the flood zone, if I could spare a little advice.
Yeah. I made a passing joke when I was delivering that farmhouse table. I said, these cabinets are pretty shoddy. I was like, if you ever flood again.
Oh, man.
If those weren't words I regretted saying later.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so I was doing that job, and I was about 3 weeks into the job, and they're like, hey, how's the cabinets coming? We'd really love to be able to get some counters in here. And I'm like, well, they're coming as expected. And so it became every weekend that I was going out there, and I just didn't see my family at all. So it was miserable. That type of work is not for the faint of heart at all.
No, I admire people who do that. And you've got, and I always hear people say, cabinet makers and people doing these kind of installs, that it's much better to get a job working for, an office or something like that than people's homes, because the people's homes are going to be just going over it with a fine tooth comb, looking at every single little thing.
I recently, about 5-6 months ago, I did a laundry room for somebody, and she waffled on me a few times on the color choice. And usually it's like once materials are purchased, I have a change order, that I charge people and stuff. She waffled a couple times, and then she waffled on the hardware, and she, this and that. And so finally it came to install day, and I was like dreading it. And, I booked 4 or 5 hours. I had a friend come help me, and I was there for 10 hours. And my friend left after 6 hours.
Gotta go.
So I was there working by myself.
On your own, Matt.
Yeah. And then the homeowner came in while I was doing the hardware. I mean, this is the final phase. So I was doing installing the hardware, and she's talking to me and stuff, and I get sidetracked. I have a jig that I use and stuff. And so there was these two cabinet doors that she wanted the hardware put in the center of the door. But all of the other ones were at the bottom.
Oh no, I know where this is going.
Yeah. So I'm talking to her, and I'm using my jig. I'm going from one door to the next door to the next door. And after I drilled the hole, she goes, "Hey, those were supposed to be in the middle."
Oh no.
And I mean, everything is painted already, and it was like I was ready to roll out after this was done. And so, sure enough, it was my error, my mistake, even though she was in there talking to me. But
it's her fault, damn it.
Yeah. The customer's always right.
Shut your yap. I'm trying to get some work done here.
I was like, well, do you want to live with it for a week and let me know if you want to change it up? She's like, no. Can you redo those?
Wow.
And so she's like, do you have to redo the doors completely, or can you just, patch it and paint it? And I was like, well, I'll see. And so I patched it and painted it. And when I went back to install it, I did a perfect cabinet trick, but she caught me. I flipped the doors upside down when I installed them so that the holes wouldn't be where she was expecting them to be. And as I hung them up, she goes, "Are those upside down?" Yeah. See, so I was like, okay, yep, I think I need to slow back on the commission builds.
This is why everybody's making cutting boards.
Right. Ship them out.
Yeah, really. Wow. Yeah. That sounds like a nightmare. Does it take any of the joy out of woodworking? Was it a setback to you after that of kind of?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely that. I always enjoy the finished shots. I always, find like, wow, I built that. And, sometimes when I show people things like, they'll say, oh yeah, I want to get these cabinets done or whatever. Do you do anything like that? And I'll show them some stuff. And they're like, wow, that's amazing. And that just brings me so much joy to know that I built that with my own hands. But the trade-off is when those things happen, that, the big kitchen job that, so the end of that story is, on that kitchen job, they were pestering me so much that they had a general contractor that was doing some other stuff around the house. And it came to a point I just said, look, why doesn't he just finish the job? And so I didn't make the $35,000. It ended up being like $22,000.
Wow. And
still about the same amount in material. So that really took the wind out of my sails.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Yeah. But you don't do a lot of stuff that you would have to, I mean, have you ever got into that kind of thing?
No.
Like selling products or?
I have only sold a couple of projects ever. And
yeah.
It was just too much of a hassle. The shipping and everything was too difficult. That was back in early YouTube. Would make some projects, and I thought, hey, maybe I could double dip. I can make some money on YouTube, and then I can sell the project. Well, you really need to sell that stuff locally, I think, because to have somebody pick it up, because the shipping, and it was just too much of a hassle for the amount of whatever I could make off of those. So yeah. I don't do that. And I don't think my stuff is good enough to sell, really. I'm not very, I don't do like high-end woodworking and that sort of thing. So, I mean, I like what I make and people seem to like it, but I don't think I would feel comfortable selling it, at least at any price that I would feel happy with. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've seen some of the stuff over at Magnolia Farm. That's, it's got a specific flair that, it looks handmade and stuff like that. I mean, it's not perfect, perfectly planed and, things like that. It has a little bit of character and stuff like that. So there's definitely a market, but if you can avoid it, I mean, you're probably not needing to be an Etsy seller.
No, yeah, I just don't have the patience for that. I can sell digital products, and that's
that's right.
Good.
Things you can sell in your sleep.
Yeah, that's kind of the way to go.
Yeah. So on the digital stuff, do you on your plans, are you outsourcing any of that kind of stuff, or are you doing a lot of that stuff yourself?
I have a team of people who works with me on the course, the three courses I do, and they handle a lot of that, the marketing, and then just kind of the day-to-day stuff on there. And that's it. Everything else I do on my own. I do all my YouTube editing. My plans are all free. I just get those out, and then, it's
you do all the fun stuff and let them do all the boring stuff.
Yeah. I'm too much of a I don't know, control freak or something with my YouTube videos. I've actually tried having somebody edit them before a couple of times, and it just wasn't working out for me. They couldn't. To me, it's like, and it was kind of then that I realized, that's just my job. That is part of the package. Is the editing is just as much my personality as me speaking on camera, because I can edit it in such a way that I might find things that I shot that I didn't really realize that, that was kind of funny. I can put that in there somehow, and I can use it. And those are the kind of things that I can't really describe to an editor.
Yeah, and then you'd have to, you end up spending more time because you're writing out the shot list on how you want them to put it together and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's that the YouTube game is not easy.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody who's just maybe one of your people who watches you, they watch you and your channel, and they think, well, I'd like to do something like that. I'd like to get into YouTube and do woodworking.
I would say do something special, do something unique, because there's I have a list I'm maintaining of all the woodworking channels on YouTube, but it's like, so far I'm up to like 350, and that's, I'm sure there's just tons more. These are just ones that I've happened across. And the vast majority of them, when I look at their channels, I can't instantly tell what are they trying to tell me, other than just, here, I'm making projects. I want people, for instance, like on my channel, to know instantly when they go there, oh, I see, this is for beginning woodworkers. It's very clear. It says this is who it's for and the type of projects I make. They know I'm never going to haul out a CNC or a laser cutter or any of these things. And so I would say that's kind of the main thing, is kind of know what you want to make, who are you trying to appeal to. And kind of like what we mentioned earlier, you really need to have some sort of an on-screen presence. I think really helps, because that's really, people are watching YouTube videos for you rather than so much of what it is you're doing. That's why it's hard for these videos of the faceless videos that never show, they're just hands making things. Sometimes that works, but it's real difficult. It's real difficult to get those to, you've got to have a very good talking voice and personality to make that work.
Yeah. I guess that's why they call it YouTube and not ThemTube or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be AI tube.
Yeah, it's coming, man. It's coming. Those AI videos are going to be out here pretty soon.
Oh yeah. You basically get, there actually is video. I don't want to get into that. If you want to know about AI, listen to last week's episode where Adam and I talk about AI a little bit. But there are channels that you can basically write in what you want it to do, and then anything from the stock shots or computer generated stuff to the full voiceover. So it's scary. It's weird.
It's all leading to porn. It's all gonna be porn.
That's right. Yeah, that's when you start your Steve Ramsey roller coasters for mere mortal channel.
Revive the roller coasters, huh? Yeah. I still have one roller coaster video on my channel. It's a little bit of an Easter egg on there, I guess.
I missed that one. Okay, I'll have to go back and
way back. Santa Cruz.
Check that out.
Yeah. I don't know why.
And I'm not putting that in the show notes. If you do your own research.
Yeah, you got to do your own damn research. Sift through 15 years of videos. There you go. There's your homework.
So can you imagine doing 15 years of roller coaster videos?
Oh man. I still watch.
You think you'd be able to handle it?
I still watch roller coaster channels though.
Yeah. What was your favorite roller coaster?
That's pretty hard to say. There's some really good ones at Magic Mountain down in LA area. And
was it Colossus or something like that?
Colossus is pretty good, yeah. They've got like, I don't know how many roller coasters at Magic Mountain. The theme park sucks, but the roller coasters are really good.
Yeah, nobody goes there for anything other than the coasters.
That's it. It's just all coasters, but it's just a horrible experience down there. The people who work there are horrible. Everything about it is just awful. But but that's where you go for the coasters.
Yeah, it's no Disney World. That's for sure.
No.
Do you ever do anything like go out to Orlando and do? We
went to Orlando 2018, I think. It was the first time I'd been there. Because we'd always gone to Disneyland, down in Anaheim, and it was a whole different experience. It's controversial. I'm still partial to Disneyland. I think it's a better park. Yeah, but it's a little biased there. That's my hot take. Is I love Disneyland. We've been going to Disneyland. I've probably been there 30, 40 times.
Oh yeah. When I lived in Fullerton, it's about a 15, 20-minute drive.
Yeah.
So I had season passes to Disneyland, and my first time going to Disney World was about 8 years ago, and took the family out there, and I was like, oh my God, it literally, no wonder they called it Disney World. It's like you're in a totally different place.
Epcot, I think, was really worth seeing. I loved Epcot, but the Magic Kingdom there, Disneyland has a real vibe to it. It has like this kind of, and this sounds really dumb when you're talking about Disney, but Magic Kingdom in Florida felt a lot more corporate than Disneyland. Yeah. And I don't know exactly what that means, but it just feels homier down at Disneyland. Yeah. And I love the park. And I love once you've been there a number of times, you don't feel this pressure to do all the Disney stuff. You can just go to the park and enjoy the experience and enjoy the crowds and look at all the hidden stuff and the cool history in there. And we love doing that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think also the weather helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. The weather in Florida, and you're walking around and you're bringing your raincoat with you, and you're not sure if you're going to need it, and you're going to have to.
Oh my God! It poured on us when we were down there. It was horrible. It was just like I thought it was going to hurricane or something. It was such a strong rain.
Well, especially when you're used to California weather. I mean, you're not originally from California, though, right?
No, I've been here for 30 years now. But I grew up in Denver, so I grew up in cold, snowy, horrible.
Got out of that as fast as you could.
I don't miss it. I really don't miss snow. I'm not really good with really hot and really cold temperatures. I just kind of like it to stay room temperature.
Yeah. Yeah. And like me, I find that now, I used to always make fun of my dad. My dad used to make fun of his dad that he wants a little bit warmer or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'm finding myself now being more cold, the older I get. And it's like, oh boy, I'm turning into my dad.
I'm turning up that heater. Damn it. I know it's like the house, we'll have the thermostat. It's like set to 70 or something. I'm like, it's a little chilly in here. I think I'm going to put it up a notch, 71. It makes all the difference.
It makes all the difference. Yeah. Yeah. My wife, I'll say, boy, it's cold in here. She says, don't touch it.
I know. There's always this thing about the thermostat. And it's just like, it's conditioned into us. I think everybody's dad had a thing about the thermostat, like don't ever touch that. We got it set. Yeah. Exactly where it needs to be. It's going down to 40 degrees at night, but you sure you'll be all right. You'll be under your covers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we had one of those house fans because we didn't have central air growing up there in California. We had one AC unit. Well, actually, we had two AC units. We had one AC unit in the dining area, and we had one AC unit in my dad's office.
Let's all go to the office.
Yeah, and it was like, don't turn on the AC. I mean, my dad is a very frugal person. But yeah, we use the house fan, suck the air out of the house, or bring the cool air in at the end of the night. But here in Houston, it's running like 24/7.
Yeah. Yeah, we just got air conditioning for the first time. It was probably 7 or 8 years ago. We'd never had air conditioning. Mostly in Northern California, you don't need it. But then we had some heat waves, and I'm like, I can't take this.
Yeah, y'all had some like 106, 107 degree temps out there.
Oh, I know, it's crazy. We're not used to that. We're not used to that. I also got a hot tub last year, so I'm really excited. It was like the best thing I ever did. Man, I love that thing.
After a nice day in the workshop.
There's nothing better on especially like on a cold morning, waking up, going out into that hot tub and watching a sunrise. It's just like, it's like this existential moment of just like being at one with everything around me. I sound very Northern California by saying that, but it's it's so true.
Yeah. Just you're at one with the nature.
Yeah.
Are you a coffee drinker?
Oh yeah. I've become something of a coffee snob lately.
Oh really?
Yeah. I so like for Christmas I got the an espresso machine. And so then it's just been down this rabbit hole of coffee drinks. I mean, I've always liked coffee, but then all of a sudden now I'm like, oh, I like real coffee. And I'm going to make some espresso and cappuccino and all this stuff. And then I go around all these different cafes in San Francisco and I'm like rating them, on what their vibe is like. And
measuring the drip and
it's true. It's true.
I want to pour over. It's like,
nothing beats a pour over.
Yeah.
How about you? What kind of coffee you like?
I do like a good pour over, but I can't tell the difference between a pour over and just using the Keurig.
Well, you just have to convince yourself it's different. That's all it is.
I mean, so I had somebody come over. We had some guests over, and I knew that he was a pour over person, so I had yanked the pour over out, and I started to do it. And he took over. He's like, whoa, hold on a minute. What are you doing?
You were doing it all wrong.
I was like, I'm making coffee. He's like, no, you're not. He says, you're ruining the coffee. I said, what do you mean?
See, he's a coffee snob.
Yeah. He said, you have to activate.
Yeah. You do the bloom.
The beans.
It's called the bloom.
Yeah. I said, what the heck is this? So it was like an art form. He was, he did it. And we stood there talking. I'm like, aren't you going to pour it? And he's like, oh no, we're letting the beans activate, or we're bloom. We're letting them bloom. I said, man, this guy's a psycho. Get him out of here. Give me a Keurig.
Yeah. So I had this woman on my podcast recently, and she has a channel, an Instagram, TikTok, and a YouTube channel called Morgan Drinks Coffee. And she makes short form videos that I absolutely love. They're just incredibly sweet and gentle, and it's all about working in a cafe as a barista. But she is a competitive barista. So I didn't know this was a thing where they have like this world competition for baristas. And she won she didn't win the world. She came in second. She won the US competition, then went to Australia. But oh my God, the coffee is like a huge, huge thing.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell when I go to a good coffee shop and the beans are different. It's not Starbucks beans, which I love Starbucks.
See, that's the thing. Well, that's why I'm a coffee snob now. I'm Starbucks. I'm like, ugh, Starbucks, please.
Oh, it's too roasted. Yeah. I don't want to taste the grit,
Horrible.
So you have a preferred brand?
No, I'm still working on it. I try different things. I'm really starting to enjoy light roasts more than I thought I would like light roasts. A little tip, I never knew there is more caffeine in a light roast than a dark roast. Yeah.
My coffee snob friend informed me on.
That's one of the things we're required to tell you guys.
That's right. Did you know?
Well, actually.
Yeah. And then if you break down the caffeine content or is there a scale?
Get out your scale. Everything has to be measured. No, seriously, that's what these coffee people do. They measure everything. They have all the tools and equipment. You can spend thousands of dollars on just a coffee setup. And of course, now people are building these coffee bars in their homes. It's like a full setup.
I think I see your next video.
I know. I would if I had a space for that. I would definitely make a coffee bar.
Coffee bar for the shop.
Oh, see, there we go. I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, you could make a pour over system.
Yeah.
There's some really interesting designs for those pour over the wood.
Yeah.
Where you stick the thing in there.
Yeah, I made one number of years ago on my.
Of course you did.
On my channel, yeah. I thought it was a really cool design too, and I did the pour over on it, but that was before I was a coffee snob, so I did it, and I didn't appreciate what I had done at the time. And now I look back on that, and that was really cool. I should revisit that.
Yeah. Well, now you can do a critique of your own work. You can use one of your alter egos and do a critique of your
I should.
former self.
Yeah, man. I'm very critical of my older self.
Oh, man. Yeah. So do you ever go back and watch those old videos?
Only if I have to, if I need something for a B-roll, if I need to show something. It's usually easy for me just to download my own videos rather than try to find it, in my archive. But yeah. I don't. I don't even like to watch the video I just made a week ago. Oh God, who is that guy?
Yeah.
So cringe.
Yeah. Oh, I'm kind of weird like that. I'll go back and watch it just for me because I'm still in the learning phase of this whole process on how I can improve. I'm trying to say, and I'm not going to say the words because then people will hear it when I'm doing the podcast. If I tell you my keywords that I hear myself say all the time, but is one of them. But anyways, so I'm trying to eliminate those out of my vocabulary.
Yeah.
And so I go back and I'll listen to the podcast, once, twice, 3 times.
Oh, I do that on my
after
podcast.
I've spent hours of editing. It's just, I'm kind of weird like that. But yeah, so same thing with YouTube videos. Like, I don't like that angle. I should do this angle differently. And
well, my keywords I use that I just want to slap myself every time I hear them saying, I'm going to just spoil it right here. Everybody can listen to any of the podcasts. As I say, everything is amazing. I use amazing way too much. Yeah. And whenever I'm trying to relate a story, it always starts out with, oh, it's kind of funny because it's kind of funny.
Oh,
like, no, it's not funny. It's just a story. I don't know why I'm saying it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny you asked that. No, it's not. But,
well, now it is.
Yeah, well, see now, and I get hyper conscious of these things. I really do get aware of those, and I try to eliminate the ums and ahs. But it's just the way people talk, and that's the fun thing about podcasts. Really, is that it is this is more how people really talk.
Right.
You say dumb things, and that happens where it's not scripted.
Right. Do you do any kind of like after shows or anything like that for your patrons?
No, I probably should, but I don't do any of that. What the patrons get is a full. I do a video version of it, and they seem to really like that, which is completely unedited. So it's just like boom. Even like when I fire up the recording and we're just kind of talking before the actual podcast, and I just put it all out there. And I was posting those on YouTube, but then I thought, it's just I was editing them, and it was just so much work. And I thought I'm just going to push the raw footage, boom, right there on Patreon. If you guys want to see it, you can watch it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure they appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I'm still building up the Patreon community. And so, we've had a few people who've been in for now 4 or 5 months. And then we've also got some people who just have joined. And now it's like, okay, now I need to figure out, you can't do it for everybody, but can you do it for the majority of people? And I'm sure things will kind of shift and morph as we go. But we do an after show. If you're willing to hang out for a few more minutes,
sure.
And do the after show portion,
that
would be awesome. Well, I'll make sure to we'll go ahead and end the main episode here, and I'll make sure that people go out and I'll put your links if they don't know what Google is and can't Google Steve Ramsey. Yeah, but I'll put all of that in the show notes. Want to say thank you to, we've got Justin, thank you for joining us, and for the Patreon members that watch these on while we're doing this live. Thank you to our Rockstar patrons, Jimmy McAnally, Artigiano Serio, Wimm Design, Calvary Customs LLC, Cleancut Woodworking, Bailey Thompson, Dave Garcia, Broken Lead Woodworks, I'm almost done, Steve Starks Lagoon, Sawyer Design, Tony with Kodama Design, Nick Poole with Dylan Furniture, and Shock the Fox. Thank you for being Rockstar patrons. Thank you to all of our patrons. And also thank you to Surf Prep for sponsoring today's episode. We will catch you in the next episode. Steve, thanks for being here.
Matt, it was a great time. Thank you.